Excuse me. Wow. Oh, the audio's on, my friends. I think host 00312 is my 15,000 or 1500th follower. Hey everybody. Hey everybody. Welcome. Hopefully we'll get a few of our students here. This fine, beautiful day. My name is Matt Live. Howdy. Oh my gosh. Claire in a chair says, for all those who were talking about League, I mentioned it to my BF and he found a website where you can see how much time you spent in game. Chaos Phoenix, how's it going? Wall.gg doesn't work too well though. Baxter says, I know the website exists. I've vowed to never look at it. Chaos Phoenix is tired. Yeah. This is going to be fun though. It actually, I'm not going to lie. It actually, when we're in class on Zoom, it just feels wrong teaching a streaming class on Zoom. The Archer Zero says that website revealed horrible things to me. Did you find out you weren't playing enough League of Legends, Archer? And it made you feel like you hadn't put in the time you should have? My name is Matt. Live said after Riot updated the level cap, the site reported close to 600 to 800 hours less than it did the previous day. So if you played before the cap, it's probably a lot more hours than it shows. You should be playing more League. Ha! When it calculated my time playing in days, that was awful. That is hilarious. It was like over 100 days or something insane. Wow. Holy cow. That's like a third of a year. Some of the stats on there made me feel better about my 717 hours on Final Fantasy. Was that 9? No, what is that? 9. I can't. And Claire in the chair says I only started in April 2020. All right, we're about to get ready in about 3 minutes to talk about the history of game streaming. It's going to be bananas. It's going to be bananas. For the I think 20 students of my 30 who showed up. Baxter 9000 is going to take attendance through the internets. I wonder if there's a way to figure out how to do attendance on Twitch. Since we can't dox, we don't know who you are. I mean, I know who a lot of you are, but... Don't dox the class. Barzano, how you doing, my friend? Arcaticus, no doxing. Don't say your name, Sean MP4. I don't want to know your name. YOLO Swaggins, how are you doing? No. Don't make a Google form and post it in class. We'll just do it's the honor system, I think. That's what we're going to do. Claire in the chair says, I just realized my stream is paused. YOLO Swaggin 70, best username. I agree. Parzano. That's awesome. All right. Once again, host 00312. I don't know if that's a bot name or a real name, but thanks for being my 1500th follower. I should do something fun for my 1500. Frodo Baggins, but cooler. I can't help the ad situation. My name's Matt says seems hella bot. It totally seems like a bot. It's awesome. Okay. I think it's about time to start. Sean MP4 says my name is Matt Live. It's probably a bot. My name is Matt Live. It's probably a bot and Jill. That's hilarious. Chaos Phoenix says seems sus. Nightbot is a little sus. You know what? My Nightbot is a turd. I've actually quieted it down quite a bit. I'm sorry, man. Professional. Okay, first of all, welcome to this TED Talk, History of Game Streaming, where for the next 45 minutes, we'll sail down the world of knowledge. Hold on. My goodness. Claire in the chair says, Nightbot pours the milk before the cereal. Hey, just to... Oh, no, I do. I've got the plague. And the only... I need more cowbell. Okay, let's do this. Okay, we're going to talk about history of game streaming. I think I probably just have members of my class here on this beautiful Just Chatting stream. But if you're not in my class, welcome. I teach a game streaming, a live game streaming class for the University of Utah, and today we're talking about the history of games. Before we get started, I want to give a full credit to the majority of these slides were created by my TA last semester, Cable, OW. So a lot of that will be used. Anyone who's listening or hanging out, even if you're not my student, if you want to share some information or insights, feel free to do so. I will do my best to read them on stream, as long as they're not sus. Nightbot cheers when the movie ends. Oh my gosh, you guys are funny. My name is Matt, says Nightbot wears shoes on the wrong feet. Okay, here we go. The history of game streaming. Week 3 in the game streaming class. So we're gonna kick it off by talking about the first live streams ever committed by humanity over the internet. And can anyone guess what year that happened in without using Google? (1984) 1990, really close. Okay. So 1993, Chaos Phoenix says 2010. 1993 was the first ever internet live stream, right? And it happened at a place called Xerox Park in, I believe it was Australia. I'm almost positive. It was a band called Severe Tire Damage. So this is kind of interesting. So at that time, Severe Tire Damage and a lot of other bands were out playing different garages, different venues, playing all over the place. So coincidentally, they happened to be playing an impromptu concert at Xerox Park. And in that same building were a bunch of stuffy scientists who were building up, let's see, I think it's on here, who were building a platform to actually stream. They were actually going to do their first live stream, and it was going to be just a bunch of nerdy scientists just talking about that live streaming project they were doing. But instead, they decided to do something a little bit more entertaining, and they live streamed a band called Severe Tire Damage in 1993. And so at that time, that concert took up 60% of all global internet bandwidth over the entire world. Archer Zero said, "I thought the professor was the first one." You guys are funny. Architectus, you got to win something. %60 of all global internet. So I think that's the thing to keep in mind at that time too, is what internet was used for back in the day. Back in 1993, the only thing people really did on the internet was sending emails and maybe looking at naughty pictures. I'm not sure. But it didn't take a lot of bandwidth. And the bandwidth, I think because nobody was live streaming or doing anything super crazy at that time, it was a little bit more accessible. And we're going to look at a clip of kind of what that looked like. So keep in mind, the resolution of that first live stream, it was like 50 by 100. So it was very low resolution. And it was like 1 to 10 frames per second. So it didn't look all that great. Yola Swaggin says, watched cat memes. So after that, so at 1993, they actually cut out the Rolling Stones were going to where they had planned on the Rolling Stones being the first live streamed band, but the severe tire damage beat them to it. And then in 1994, severe tire damage ended up being the opening act when the Rolling Stones actually did do a live band stream. Loyola Swaggins into this. Since the beginning of time, man has watched cat streams. That's cool. That's true. Okay, so in 1995, after that, Real Networks is founded and does their first commercial internet broadcast, so more commercial production. And then internet radio broadcast. They did an internet radio broadcast of Major League Baseball games. So you could listen to live baseball games over the internet. At that time was in 1995. And then in 1997, the Real Player is introduced in the US. And I'm not sure any of you remember that. I remember using the Real Player. It was a thing of beauty. It looked like that. That was the internet back in 1997, and these standalone radio players that you'd use on your computer. So they were the early standard in streaming content, and later supplanted by Shockwave. Yola Swaggins asked, do we know how many people tuned in on average for these first streams? I don't. I know that people were able to listen and watch across the US and Australia. But these are the kind of questions, Yola Swaggin, that I really appreciate on this live stream. Because when I do these streaming classes, this is like the 2021 fall version. My hope is to take, this is the beauty of Twitch and doing this on stream, is I'm hoping to take all your questions and add them and compile them as I go through this history and building this up. So that's a good question. My name is Matt said, I wasn't even alive to remember it, but your parents probably had one in your crib. But yeah, that was the Real Player back in 1997. And then this is severe tire damage. Hopefully the audio works.
3, 4.
So it would have looked something like this. A thing of beauty, am I right? And that is severe tire damage right now, talking about their experience. Okay, so we talked about game streaming after that. Game streaming was born out of the esports industry. 2003 was the first ever esports streams globally. South Korea had the GOM player. So you remember the Real Player? Well, South Korea had the GOM player, and it was specifically built to help them stream StarCraft. The rest of the world used ESL TV to watch Counter-Strike and Quake, mostly in Europe. But the game streaming started on TV and then started streaming over to the internet as well. Streaming at that time was still relatively uncommon. Most of it was watched on TV, and then people would watch demos and replays. Much more common with distribution forums, so they'd watch and comment on them after the fact. Saint Tordon says, "Sorry, I'm late to class. How dare you, Saint Ordon? Welcome to class. I'm just happy you're here, so no worries." Arcaticus says that is the most 90s video I've ever seen. Yeah, 1993, baby. The first ever streamed band. Okay. This, by the way, this Ferrari here is one of the first streamed gaming events. Was a Quake competition where the champion had the chance to win John Carmack's Ferrari, and that's the picture of it right there. It was a huge deal. And of course, even the streams back then were very primitive HTTP-based streams. Those were the norm. Wasn't really mainstream yet. And so this is some of that early live stream footage we were talking about. So this is the 2005, one of the 2005 StarCraft championships. Let's tune in and watch some of that. Yola Swaggin says, when streaming started, people mostly only stream competitive games. Yeah, that was pretty much it. So most regular people didn't stream. I think mostly it was just competitive competitions. It was esports competitions that kind of got streaming off to the start. So a lot of the technology wasn't super accessible to the Joe public.
So we're going to see another army move in to replace the one that was just taken out by Sherwin. We have some more Scourge waiting.
Okay, all right, here it is again. Joe Schober extended himself there. He's getting a little cocky.
Taking those siege tanks. One is falling,
All right.
falling.
Here we go. Can he do it? Zerg units moving everywhere from all of the map. Scourge, Ultra Zerglings.
The bunker fell like butter.
All right, Scourge coming in here, going to kill anything they see.
Siege tanks going down. Those Ultras taking them
More Zerg units.
very easily. Down to 2 siege tanks. Another
All right,
one
this is
will fall.
going to be too much. I don't know.
This is bad for Sherwin. Bad news. That entire army has been taken out.
This is something every Terran player's experienced, but I wouldn't want to experience it right now.
Reinforcements coming in from the south.
I love it. Yes, these casters. But isn't that fun? And so this was both being played on TV and streamed across the internet. So that is MGL. Yeah, they're yelling. They're excited. They'd never seen Zerglings attack the way they did during that competition, which is pretty awesome. Okay, moving forward. So 2000 to... Oop, did I go ahead? No. Oh, I'm skipping ahead too fast. Okay, so 2000 to 2006 to 2008 was kind of the birth of modern streaming. So in 2006, MLG debuts on television, streaming in 2007. I think I jumped the gun a little bit about that. So that was Major League Gaming. In 2007, Justin.tv launches. Someone in the chat just said Justin.tv kind of changed that. So 2007 was Justin.tv launches, and then games were added to that in 2008. We're going to talk a little bit more about Justin.tv in just a moment. In 2008, YouTube's first ever live stream started. So they started a YouTube Live, which wasn't super accessible yet to the public in 2008. And so then there's some image too. And then in 2008, 2009, Xfire integrates game streaming and a recording into Messenger client. Right. So this is another one of those cool apps you could get for your computer at that time that happened to have Messenger and live streaming kind of built in. So once again, the technology is coming closer to being accessible to the public. My name is Matt says, dude, esports casters go wild even today. They're hilarious. They're awesome. And here's an example of, this was on a show, an example of that MGL. This is the 2007 MLG, Las Vegas National Championships.
Three down for final boss already. Gandhi's got the camo. Let's get Gandhi up on our screen. And here we go, Gandhi moving in with that camo, and Walshy showing off his up close, his short game. One of the best short range players in the league. Walshy takes him out. And now it is Carbon starting to have 3 down. Shockwave and Gandhi trying to keep their team in it. Only 2 players alive right now.
So you notice at that time, the technology is getting a little better. You're starting to see some chat on the screen. A lot more of kind of the modern streaming things that we're used to today, with the casters obviously going crazy as well there. Some Halo 2 there. But you're seeing a little bit more of that chat integration, right? So now, before this, people were more watching this stuff on stream and then having to go to like forums and web pages to kind of write comments where people would read it, so they could chat with each other. Now it's becoming more mainstream, more accessible. So really quick, who is Justin? We were just talking about Justin earlier. Justin of Justin TV. So Justin Kahn is the Justin behind Justin.tv. So he popularized, I can't even talk. It's the end of the day, my friends. Let's just take a deep breath here. I actually think I'm going to edit this video to be a little bit more YouTube edited for you guys to watch later. But he popularized the term life casting for 24/7 live streaming your daily life. So literally Justin TV was Justin TV. It was him recording himself 24/7. Which surprisingly at that time was a popular thing. I think some other people were kind of doing the same thing, but he became pretty big. GG Alpha 13, thank you so much. Pop you lie resid. Holy cow, I still can't say it. I'm not even going to try. I'm not going to embarrass myself anymore tonight. He invented the live streaming backpack as well, now commonly used by other IRL streamers. And this is the man himself, which his backpack popped right in front of his face because I put these slides together earlier today. But he later received funding from Y Combinator for Justin.tv and later became a partner. So that backpack you see right there, I think there are different versions of it now, but it's used by other IRL streamers who are into that. Thus the gaming side, but a lot of the streaming in real life, so they can do that live. And these, I believe the price tag on one of these backpacks is somewhere around $2,400. So not super cheap. But yeah, that is Justin TV. He's the one behind Twitch TV is really where it started. And so the gaming aspect was actually an offshoot of Justin TV. And what they noticed is gaming, when it started to become more popular, it actually ended up moving ahead of the IRL recording, and that's when they changed the name to Twitch TV. So we're going to talk about this a little bit. So Twitch.tv and modern game streaming. We're going to talk about that a little bit. In 2011, Justin.tv spins off a gaming wing called Twitch.tv that we were just talking about. So that was just three years after Justin.tv formed. Gaming had kind of taken over by then. And their early competition for Twitch.tv was this image right behind me. Owned 3D. I'd actually never heard of them. That was quite a while ago, before I got into live streaming. The problem with Own 3D is they shut down because they failed to pay their streamers, which is a common issue with a lot of streaming services. My name is Matt says, and IRL just chatting are some of the most popular again nowadays. Yeah, if we have a little time after this, I actually want to talk about the April quarterly report and kind of talk about some of these numbers, because it's fascinating as we talk about the history of live streaming. One of the things that these slides don't incorporate that I think YOLO Swaggins suggested was more of the numbers behind those, how many people were watching, et cetera, et cetera. Because it's good to see those numbers to see how the popularity goes down. And so I think what we're going to do is the 2021, if we have time, we're going to check out those today. Because in October, we'll be able to see the new quarter report and kind of see how the trends are going. Because even though game streaming is kind of like becoming more mainstream and normal, it is still the Wild West, which we'll talk about a little bit here. So Own 3D TV was a streaming platform that was competing with Twitch, shut down after failing to pay its streamers, which is a common issue. And then the initial Twitch content at that time was mainly esports and speedrunning. Those were kind of the bread and butter, the thing that everyone was doing. At that time, I believe on the gaming side, you weren't allowed to do much more than that. So it's fascinating that it went from IRL to strictly gaming, and now that's kind of eased up to be a lot more just chatting and IRL type things. So at that time as well, in 2011, around then, Games Done Quick debuted on Twitch around this time. So Games Done Quick, you say? What is Games Done Quick? How many of you have watched Games Done Quick? Arcaticus says the best thing ever. It's a good thing, that's for dang sure. So what is Game Done Quick? It's a semi-annual charity speedrunning event. Claire in a chair says I love their Pokemon ones. TAS, Pokemon is insane. GDQ is a stream where speedrunners get to show off their skills. Yola Swaggin says nope. And the explanations of what they do. That's cool. Celeste, oh, that would be a good one. And Claire in the chair mentions they love how it is for charity too. Typically held in person, but because of COVID, the little pandemic going on, they've been going online. I'm not sure this year if they're going to be in person or not. But they raise money for Doctors Without Borders in the summer, and then in the winter, they raise money for the Prevent Cancer Foundation. So they raise a lot of money. It's founded by Mike Uyama. The first event was hosted in his basement. So yeah, first game's done quick. I believe it was in Virginia, I think his grandmother's basement. Don't quote me on that, but definitely fact check it so I can update my slides. But it just exploded because it's just such a fun event. The Celeste TAS, my name is Matt, says the Celeste TAS literally breaks the game. It's such a fun video. Definitely watch it if you have some extra time. I will have to do that. Okay. So some novel uses of game streaming. This is a short list, but definitely I'm sure we could think about a lot more in chat. But some of those novel uses, game streaming doesn't always have to involve esports or speed running. So in 2013, SaltyBet started something. So we don't know who SaltyBet is. It's a Twitch streamer, but they started an AI-controlled custom character fighting game matches. And at the time, the users could bet on those matches. Right now, it's not using real money anymore. But it's been going strong for about 8 years since SaltyBet started that. It uses I believe the game engine is called Mogu. But the public is able to create their own characters, and it pretty much, they fight each other. The AI fights each other, and you bet on it, and it's been going strong. I actually took a peek at it before tonight to see how many viewers were watching it. I think I had about 500 people watching it. So 8 years straight. Sean MP4 says Mugen is what it's called. Thank you so much. Yeah, Twitch Plays Pokemon is another big one. That was in 2014. It was a crowdsourced gameplay of Pokemon with over 1 million participants. Any of you big Pokemon fans, do you know which versions of Pokemon they played? Clarinet Chair says TPP was insane. Chaos Phoenix said red, blue, yellow. I think it was red and blue. Red, blue. I believe it was red, blue. And so those 1 million people would tell the game which buttons to press by crowd decision, and they were able to beat the entire game. Totally crazy. Other types of thing they have is Twitch Plays Pokemon spin-offs like Twitch Plays Halo, Twitch Plays Zelda, and this is where giant crowds of people go through the entirety of those games, telling the controls what to do. There was even one called Fish Plays Pokemon, if you've ever heard of that. It's where a live camera of a fish registers the fish position and that results in a controller input. So they had a goldfish actually play through the game of Pokemon, and I guess it was able to find a bunch of really elusive bugs that are in the game that were not discovered before. On top of that, even nowadays, they have one called Stock Stream, where Twitch chat votes on what stocks to buy using a 50,000 seed investment. Just a lot of crazy stuff. I was actually looking on earlier. Jack Dyer, I've been watching this one. This streamer, for the past 2 or 3 years, has been live streaming a jar of Jif peanut butter. Every once in a while, I hop on there to watch that jar of peanut butter just to make sure it's still there. And it is. I'm really pleased to say it still is. A lot of interesting things. I know back in 2017 when I got into the whole Twitch stream, that was when they started playing the Bob Ross replays, which were getting massive views. And yeah, so like I say, it's not just for games. There's a lot of stuff on there. A lot of weird stuff, which really is a creative outlet that I think is cool. And of course, here's an example of salty bets, right? So people are able to create their own avatars in this game. These are their own fighters. Here you can see Ronald McDonald fighting with cheeseburgers. I'm not sure who he's beating up there, but he's obviously a contender. Oh, Cheese Please says, speaking of novel uses for live streaming, I watched someone beat Dark Souls 3 by using a banana. That is awesome. Before we jump off the novel uses of game streaming, have you seen any? I would love to hear any inputs of what we should add to the next year's slides for this. What are some of the most novel uses of live streaming you've seen? Cheese Please says impact triggers inside of the banana for the commands. That's awesome. The fish. The fish is a good one. Blindfold. All right, we will move on. If you think of any, please feel free to add them to the chat. Okay, growth of game streaming. So in 2013, YouTube opens up YouTube Live to all creators with over 1,000 subscribers. So now all users can, and now it's all users, right? So in 2013, if you had over 1,000 subscribers, you could live stream. And currently, it's open up to anybody. There are some caveats. We'll talk about YouTube a little bit later. You actually can't just start streaming right now. There's a couple things you have to do. Cheese Please says voice commands using voice recognition software to play. It's awesome. 2014, Twitch is acquired by Amazon for $970 million, which was a lot of money at the time. Kind of insane in 2014. In 2015, YouTube creates YouTube Gaming, Twitch's first major competitor. And as we go on and talk more in this class, we're going to kind of talk about some of the difference between YouTube and Twitch and the competition. By all measures, YouTube has a lot more viewers watching their video. They have a much larger user base. So really, on paper, you would think that YouTube would be able to smash Twitch, but it hasn't yet. 2017, Twitch signs first exclusive broadcasting deal with Blizzard for Overwatch League. And not all growth was positive. Video game streaming has its growing pains. It obviously has their issues. It's going through some right now with Twitch. It's not on the slides, but we can talk about a few in just a moment. So some of those growing pains, privacy issues on the platform, right? So stalking in 2017, there was an incident with streamer Elohim. A viewer showed up on their doorstep. So he had a super fan from, I think it may have been from Korea, but they flew all the way to the U.S., ended up on his doorstep, and it didn't end in violence, but things like that happen. Doxing is a severe issue with privacy and people becoming very infatuated with streamers. And so we're going to talk about later on the semester parasocial relationships and how those kind of play a factor in streaming. Chaos Phoenix says YouTube has gone down the drain when it comes to treating creators. My name is Matt says adjusted for inflation, the Twitch purchase was for $1.15 billion. Interesting. Chaos Phoenix says swatting. And Cheese Please mentions the live stream of otters on marine mammal rescue consistently has 1,000 plus viewers. How cool is that? Okay, so yeah, swatting. Swatting is a big deal. So swatting is when you call the police on streamers, and it has been an ongoing issue for major content creators. Kind of scary. So even Justin TV at that time had issues with swatting. So people would call the police. They would say that you were in a dangerous situation or had a weapon, and they would just come busting in through your door with guns blazing, and that is super scary. So that is a major privacy issue. Content issues on the platform as well. Copyright issues. Game streaming is not necessarily fair use. Nintendo in particular has taken down streamers for their games, right? So just because you're playing the games doesn't mean you own the rights to play them live. So they are fair use. However, most game companies, I think, realize that the benefits far outweigh their games being spoiled, because it's a way to get the games out there in the market and rise in popularity. I think Fortnite, PUBG, a lot of those games, even League of Legends, are all part of that. Platinum VO says, I hate swatting so much. Me too. It's very bad. On top of that, the DMCA issues, playing music on stream, can result in copyright strikes. That's been a huge issue this year, where Twitch started kicking users off for the DMCA violations. They took it very seriously, and it was a major issue where even your VODs that you've created years ago, if they played a copyrighted music and you still had it saved on Twitch's servers, you could get in trouble for that. So a lot of streamers ended up having to dump a lot of their previous content, and a lot of them ended up getting banned. And so it was a huge issue on the platform. So talking about that really quick, some of the other incidents, I think there's something that's very timely going on right now, is Twitch is having a lot of issues because of people spamming hate language on other people's streams. So currently, if someone in your chat hops on and says hate speech or something terrible that's against terms of service, if it's not taken down immediately by a moderator or the the streamer, they can get banned or get a strike on their stream. So this is an issue because right now there are bots and people flooding and raiding streams with this type of hate speech very often when the streamer is no longer online, and then they end up getting banned. So these are some of those growing pains that kind of really boil up to the top amongst a lot of other issues. There's a lot of caveats that go along with live streaming and people. My name is Matt Lives. Twitch handled DMCA very poorly. LOL. Yep. So it's something that YouTube had to figure out a long time ago, and Twitch did not do the greatest job. Cheese Police says it's so backwards how much the music industry hates having people hear the music. Okay, next on the list, how to protect yourself from DMCA. So this is great for all of you. As you're streaming, you want to play music. Be very careful because you can get banned from Twitch for playing copyrighted music. So you want to be careful with that. So music is the biggest culprit. Look for the DMCA-free music labels. There are a lot of options now for DMCA-free music. And so just go on a lookout for that. We can talk about it in another class. If you're not sure, check the label's Twitter and they will let you know. It's a good way to check if the music you're using is copyright free. There are some avenues I use, like Harris Heller puts out some stuff on Spotify. Spotify also has copyright free streaming music that you can use there. And I think it's becoming more and more popular. My biggest beef with all of that is the ads are incredibly pervasive. Like I have used some of the Spotify DMC free music before, and every 10 minutes you're getting a Charmin toilet paper commercial on your stream. Not even 10 minutes. It's just over and over again. Or McDonald's, right? And so it can be annoying. Cheese Please mentions that they split their music off, which is not a bad idea. Cheese Please says they are like, don't use copyright music, but also here's a solution. They give you the second VOD stream feed so they can have split their audio music. My name is Matt says a subscription to Monster Cat Gold costs like $5 a month and gives you full rights to all their music for YouTube and streaming. Oh, that's cool. Everything by the entire record label. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Games can also be DMCA'd too. Only there is one company that regularly issues DMCA. I need to add the image to the slide here to pop up, but it is Nintendo. I think they're getting better than they used to be, but definitely they do not like you streaming their content for free. They're better than that. Me being a regular Nintendo Super Mario Maker 2 streamer, I have not seen any issues with it. I even had the Doug Bowser, the president of Nintendo America, even visited the University of Utah. I took him down to my streaming lab and even talked about how I was okay, this is super lame, but I'm I was the 153rd most popular Mario Maker 2 streamer at the time, and he thought that was pretty awesome. So I think they are growing up. I'm a big Nintendo fan. I'm not always happy with what they do. Platinum VO says, I also heard that NCS, no copyright sounds, is good as long as you give credit. That's awesome. Okay. One of the other big things I think you all should keep in mind, avoiding breaking street date on unreleased games. I believe that is absolutely against the TOS terms of service for Twitch. and should be a YouTube as well. If you do that, you could end up getting banned, and it's sad. YOLO Swaggin says, why does Nintendo hate their fan base so much? As a Nintendo fan, it's like, why? I know, right? I'm a huge Nintendo nut too. Always have been. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about Mixer, a cautionary tale. Can give Cable full credit for that title. Everybody familiar with Mixer? Or has it been too long now? Cheese Please says, that's not lame at all. Make Bowser recognize the absolute power. My name's Matt Live says, and also sued by the companies. LOL, street data is a big deal. It is. You know what? If these companies spend a lot of time and money and effort and crunch time making these games as good as possible, then just to have someone spoil it right below the release date, it's not cool. Arcaticus says, does Mixer even exist now? Let's talk about that. So Mixer was founded as Beam in 2016 and acquired by Microsoft and rebranded as Mixer in 2016. Microsoft aggressively integrated Mixer into games like Forza Horizon 3 and 4 and the Xbox One. And Ninja, does everyone remember Ninja? That dude signed an exclusivity deal in 2019. And then he was aggressively promoted at conventions. At that time, he was the largest Twitch streamer in the world, a big Fortnite streamer, making a lot of money on Twitch. I believe it was a $30 million 5-year exclusivity. I can't even talk tonight. Deal with Mixer that he would only stream there. Baxter 900 says Mixer was neat back when it was Beam before it got bought. Yeah, Shroud went over as well for less money, but still a lot of money, right? So they grew, they had a growth of streamed content, but declined in viewership in 2019. Mixer shut down in 2020, displacing all partnered streamers. Some moved on to Facebook gaming, others broke contracts and moved elsewhere. Ninja and Shroud actually made out by like bandits. I think that they tried to sell their contract to Facebook, but Ninja and Shroud had the rights. It was actually built into their contract that if Mixer canceled their contract, that they got paid out double. So I'm pretty sure he made out like bandits for like 9 months of work. So I remember at that time, Mixer, when they left, a lot of users were displaced. A lot of streamers who'd maybe been banned off of Twitch went over to Mixer, and a lot of them came back to Twitch, but a lot of them like did not want to go back to Twitch after Mixer. Baxter 900 points out the Beam was really interesting due to the fact that it pushed the tech way past what Twitch was using at the time. It forced Twitch to innovate and update a bunch of their stuff. Yeah, that's what I hear a lot about. I never used Mixer. Maybe I did once. I can't remember. I may have given it a go. Then it got bought by Microsoft and they stopped aggressively improving their tech. Yep. Take my millions and start my own streaming platform. I know, right? I think they have a tough time. They don't have a great... Streaming platforms have a tough record, actually. So that was Mixer. So they only lasted a few years, and they were, at the time, a bit of a competitor as well. So modern game streaming, large streamers are now signing exclusivity agreements. Hey, I can say exclusivity now with major platforms, Ninja, Shroud, etc. Streaming has gone international, with Spanish-speaking streamers having some of the most viewed streams of all time. So yeah, the Spanish side of things is huge. So a lot of my students have asked if they can stream in Spanish, to which I say, heck yeah, especially if it's your native language. Even if it's not, practice in a different language, it's okay. So whatever language you're comfortable with, yes, it's an international thing. Baxter 900 mentions Beam had HTML5 players and 1 second stream delay over a year and a half before Twitch had it, and Twitch still can't consistently reach the 1 second stream delay it had at launch. I know, right? That is pretty lame. Numerous platforms now exist to stream on, so not just Twitch. You've got Twitch, you've got Facebook Gaming, you've got YouTube, Billy, Do You, D-Line, Africa, Booyah, and Trovo. Have any of you used any of these other platforms? I'm just curious. D-Line might actually be D-Live. I might have messed up my my card. Riku Dude has tried Africa for StarCraft 2. I had a friend who used Trovo once. I think I've used Trovo twice, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. Most major platforms have monetization built in now, creating the full-time streamer as a viable career path. So it's actually easier than ever to like make money on those platformers if you can get the views. Same as Twitch. I think there's this golden carrot dangled in front of all users. And most 90% of streamers do not make little to zero money. Doesn't KR have a ton more than just Africa as well? It may. So platform reviews. I wanted to talk about some of the platforms really quick here. These are some of the ones that I've streamed on as well. Some of them I haven't, but these are kind of some of the major platforms. I would love to hear your opinions, even anybody watching, of what platforms you've streamed on and which ones you think are worth mentioning in future reviews to kind of talk about. First and foremost is Twitch, YouTube Gaming, then Facebook Gaming, DLive, and of course Trovo. So Twitch is the one that I suggest the most, and we're going to look at some quarterly reports and kind of talk about why that is. Twitch does have some issues with findability for people to find you, but it is dedicated solely for gaming and live streaming, which actually helps. Second is YouTube Gaming. I've streamed on YouTube as well. It's a little difficult to be found, but one of the things we will talk about later on during the semester is using both YouTube and Twitch together to help promote yourself as a very big way of getting more viewers to you. A lot of streamers say that you can't get a lot of viewers without using both for their different strengths and weaknesses. YOLO Swaggin says, I've seen a lot on Bilibili and Douyu, but never knew anyone personally that streams there. Facebook Gaming, I've streamed there as well. I've actually had people suggest that I use Facebook Gaming because I would get a quote unquote a lot of viewers, but I ended up being lonely on Facebook Gaming, as well as YouTube for the most part. The discoverability is very difficult on those. Zero U says, what space movie is made in 1992? I'm not sure. DLive, I've never actually used DLive. I think one of the big things on DLive is that they, I think PewDiePie went there for a while. He was a big name back in the day. I think from what I hear, I haven't really looked into DLive. I actually hopped on there before this class just to see how much was being streamed on there, and it looked like very little games were actually being streamed. So it has a lot of talk, a lot of politicized kind of news and chatting, stuff that I usually steer clear from, and so I can't really recommend DLive at all. Also, their monetization system, from what I understand, is a little bit weird in that they actually use cryptocurrency as their form of payment. So they pay their viewers, their users, in something called lemons, which converts to a cryptocurrency, which then has to be like sold back on the exchanges to actually get US dollars or whatever your currency is, which may be a little bit difficult. But yeah, I wouldn't really recommend DLive, but it is there and it's still alive. Trovo is another one that really came out, got a lot of streamers hopped onto Trovo right after Mixer tanked. So a lot of people that didn't want to go back to Twitch or Facebook Gaming or YouTube kind of jumped over to Trovo, which is a Chinese-based streaming service. I believe Tencent owns them. And primarily their focus is more mobile games. So a lot of mobile gaming. I've streamed some Mario Maker there as well. The cool part about streaming Mario Maker or those games that aren't really viewed on Trovo is I'm immediately the #1 in that channel. And so even with 5 viewers, whenever I streamed on that platform, I was the #1 in that game. Cheese Please says, sounds an awful lot like black market funding for DLive. Yeah. The interesting thing about Trovo, it's pretty much a direct mirror of Twitch. So if you've ever streamed on Twitch, Trovo is actually right at home. They use all the same kind of interface and rewards and that kind of stuff. Rico Dude says, have you heard of Theta TV? No, is that another streaming service? Now that you've mentioned it, I will look into it and see if I want to add that to my list here. I'm curious, anybody watching, have you tried, what are some of the streaming platforms you've actually tried out? So Rico Dude, have you tried Theta TV? Yeah, another thing to mention, accessing any of these is actually pretty easy with OBS. I think when we went over how to log your stream key in to Twitch and to YouTube Gaming last week on the class demo, you'd notice that long laundry list of streaming platforms. There are a lot out there. Oh, Riku Dude says, yes, it has this feature where users can apparently earn money by watching streams. It's a pretty new thing too. That is fascinating. All right. So that pretty much concludes the history of game streaming that I've prepared for this class. Kind of took us from the very beginnings. We didn't get into crazy critical detail. I would love in the future to add more of the numbers because that fascinates me. But one of the things I want to do real quick, we have a little bit more time. I'm not going to go super long tonight for all my students. I'm going to let you go a little bit early. But I did want to break into some of the numbers because they fascinated me. And like I mentioned, the quarterly report comes out in April, and then another one comes out in October. So just another month from now, we're going to see a new one. So I wanted to talk about the previous one. So I'm just going to switch my display really quick so I can get that up that I wanted to. I'm going to hide myself. Okay, so this is what I wanted to check out with you all really quick to kind of talk about what's going on in the industry as all my students decide which platform they want to test out on to streaming. I actually recommend trying out several of them. I think it's interesting to see how each of those streaming platforms function. It's never good advice to kind of split your audience base, but this class isn't about just gaining an audience. It's about learning more about the platform. So I think it's a good idea to test out other platforms. Okay, here we go. Turn off my office hours. Hopefully everyone can see this okay. I'm going to zoom it in a little bit. This is a quarter report that comes out every quarter. Streamlabs is kind enough to present this to kind of help us get some insight on what's happening in the game industry. Before I do that, Rico Dude said, the way it works when someone streams, the people who watch can share internet connection to improve the stream quality for people who have a little bit worse internet or something like that. Oh, that's a fascinating prospect. So it's kind of paying forward. It's sharing some of your bandwidth for the less bandwidth. I don't know. I was going to say some fancy word there, some big college word. Okay, here we go. So this is the Streamlabs quarter report for 2021 in April. B Minutes, how are you doing, my friend? Welcome to class. You're in school right now studying the history of game streaming. We just covered that for the last half hour, 45 minutes. Now we're jumping into the quarter report to kind of dive into some of the numbers that are happening right now in 2021. So the quarter report is behind us. Here we go. We're gonna jump into some of these takeaways. So here's the key takeaways. Remember, this isn't an annual report. This is quarterly, although they'll show some annual stuff. So looking at the massive hours that are watched, especially during the pandemic time, says Twitch viewership reached an all-time high in quarter one, growing 16.5% since the last quarter. So it went from 5.4 billion with a B hours watched versus 6.3 billion this quarter. So that is insane, the amount of hours watched. Viewership. So people always ask, actually people ask, is Twitch still popular? Is it losing the hours watched? Yeah, put the billions of hours watched. Viewership on Twitch has doubled in 1 year. So Platinum VO says that makes sense, right? So during the pandemic, not as many people were leaving their homes. Actually, the amount of people streaming increased as well. I remember at that time, it wasn't just streaming, but back when the pandemic, when all the teachers were going back home to teach their classes like I'm doing right now via the internet, it was actually really hard to get webcams. Blue Yeti microphones were all sold out. It was hard to get a lot of that equipment, partially because teachers were now going home. A lot of people were going home to work, but also a lot of streamers were jumping on to use some of their spare time to not only watch game streaming, but also to stream their own. Facebook gaming closed the gap on YouTube gaming with 1.6 billion hours watches versus 1.37. So even Facebook had 1.37 billion hours watched, while, Twitch still had 6.3. Facebook gaming viewers surpassed 1 billion hours in one quarter for the first time, and year over year, watch time on YouTube gaming has nearly doubled. So YouTube is gaining. So if you look at kind of the pie chart of that, this is kind of the big three Twitch streaming services right now. So I imagine the Trovos, the D-Lives, the Bilibis, the Africa, all those other ones are kind of like teeny tiny slivers when compared with Facebook gaming, YouTube gaming, and Twitch streaming. And this is something that's always interesting to me since I've started teaching this class and really diving into streaming. If you think about Facebook and YouTube, and even the Xbox and Microsoft with Mixer, it's amazing that they're not doing better against Twitch, even for all the mistakes that we've talked about that Twitch makes with their DMCA and how they're handling this current like hate speech issue and streamers getting banned. They're still the big man on campus. And a lot of that, I think someone mentioned for YouTube gaming and Facebook, it all comes to discoverability. I think because there are so many billions of people already watching YouTube and already on Facebook, actually it's difficult for that gaming side to grow and thrive because they're constantly being drowned out by the oceans of people that are already in there. Whereas Twitch, my own personal opinion, is because it's only focused on gaming, and even though it has those discoverability issues, sometimes when you want to watch or do something, you go to the place where that's the only thing they do, right? I don't know. I'd love to hear some other opinions on that, but that's kind of what I've kind of gleaned from it. So Twitch still represents 72% of the market share in terms of viewership and 6.5% increase from the previous quarter. So they're still growing pretty well. Facebook gaming has significantly closed the viewership gap compared to YouTube gaming. We kind of saw that. So they're starting to get the same pie share, YouTube and Facebook, which is pretty respectable, right? 12 to 15% respectively. And last quarter, YouTube gaming represented 23% of the market share for viewership in quarter one. That number fell down to 15% as Facebook is kind of it kind of gives me an impression that Facebook is kind of snatching that from YouTube, not necessarily Twitch. Okay, so Twitch viewership, we mentioned just chatting. Here we go. We're going to go down. So this is fascinating. Just chatting now accounts for 12% of all content watched on Twitch in quarter one 2021. So just chatting became the number one watched streaming category on Twitch in quarter three of 2020, and it's continuing to build that up, amassing a massive 522 million hours watched. That number has only gotten bigger, growing 44% to reach 754 million hours watched in Q1 in 2021. Riku Dude says it's got to be the hot tubs. It's got to be something. And it's curious, like, that's kind of the question. As a big portion of our population maybe turning a little less to Netflix and some of the mainstream entertainment to find their favorite Twitch streamers and kind of follow them more in more than just playing games. So some of my students earlier in our discussion in class were mentioning that a lot of their favorite streamers are actually getting together and hosting game shows and different kind of things in those just chatting categories rather than just drinking a coffee and chatting. They're actually producing entertainment content with a lot of the favorite YouTube stars. So that may account for some of that where they're getting the views. Says, for context, the most watched gaming category on YouTube Gaming Q1 2021 was Garena Free Fire at 148 million hours watched, and the most watched category on Facebook Gaming was PUBG Mobile at 254 million hours watched. So these are some of the kind of the total hours watched per quarter. I'm going to skip through those because you're just seeing how they dipped in. 2019 actually saw a pretty big dip. And then with the pandemic, I was teaching this class in 2019, and it was fascinating watching in Q3 as a lot of these gaming things took a dip, and then they took a jump and skyrocketed during 2020. So it says the number of unique channels streaming on Twitch reached an all-time high as well in Q1, growing 11% compared to the other previous quarters of 11.2 million streamers. Versus 12.5. So there's a lot of people streaming. Over 1 million more channels streamed to Twitch in Q1 than the previous quarter. So a lot of activity happening with the streamers. And that is one of the biggest things you should look at when you look at competition and where you want to stream, is even though there may be less streamers there, you have to look at the streamers compared to the viewers and how that averages out. So average concurrent viewership on Twitch has increased 19.2% in Q1 compared to the previous quarter. So that means that more viewers are watching. The average viewers that each person has increased quite a bit. Compared to this time last year, average concurrent viewership has doubled from 1.442 million to in quarter 2020. Okay, so we're going to head down a little bit more and look at the top games being played. We'll skip the Facebook stuff. It's all increasing similarly. Like I say, live streaming is not going anywhere. It continues to be extremely popular. Okay, so the top games watched. We're going to talk about this really quick. We already talked about just chatting. So like it mentions the top games watched, apparently just chatting is a game, my friend. Claire in a chair says the Germa dollhouse was insane and I loved it. I'll have to check that out. My name is Matt Live said, right, so clever, and the production quality was absolutely wild. So the biggest games watched, just chatting, and then right behind that, Grand Theft Auto 5. And followed by the League of Legends. So number 2, Grand Theft Auto 5. That must be a brand new game, right? When did that come out? Tash Draw says, wow, I knew everything blew up in the pandemic, but seeing the actual stats, it's wild. It is really wild, Tash Draws. Shout out to Tash Draws, another fantastic streamer and artist on the internets. Arcatica says, I hate GTA so much. The GTA 5 role players took over by storm. Yep, Claire in the chair, you're exactly right. It's a big role-playing thing now. Yeah, it's interesting, the things that take off on the internet, isn't it? Rico Dude says Grand Theft Auto 5 is literally just chatting with some gambling thrown into it. It came out in 2013. So it's pretty old. Poop Fire Shots, who has the best name on the internet, says I watched 4 to 6 hours every day. Yeah, GTA had to be the RP servers, especially with the XQC's RP. Yeah, XQC streamed that a lot, right? But what's funny is I've watched a few of them. You have these streamers who really get into that role. So it's really kind of this virtual role playing. Like you have former sheriffs who will go around in the game acting like they're real cops, playing by the rules. You have robbers who will just be like the worst robbers in the world. A lot of weird stuff. I don't watch it myself, but I appreciate that it's out there. Fascinating that such an older game like that is still getting so much replay time, all because of Twitch, right? Hyperthread says GTA 5 is only fun nowadays if you mod it. All right. So top publishers to watched in quarter 2021. So of course Riot Games was the top publisher, followed by Rockstar. So this is League of Legends, Rockstar, you know, Grand Theft Auto 5 and T2. And then, of course, a shameless plug for Streamlabs and Hatchet, who put all this together. But I love seeing those numbers. It's something I really wanted to talk about as we go on, especially going over the history of Twitch, where it came from with its, or not even Twitch, but game live streaming in the first place, where it came from its humble beginnings, all the way to now, where billions and billions and billions of hours are being watched every month. So I can only imagine the server capacity that it takes. Previous quarterly reports really went more into the numbers, diving down into the individual streamers. I'm going to find some of that data over the semester to really talk about like the average viewership of each one of these platforms and how that affects which one you stream in and all that kind of fun stuff. It really is interesting to get into all those numbers. My name is Matt said, and Legends of Runeterra. People like watching digital card games, I guess. Oh, people like watching everything on this this wild world of game streaming. Okay, that is the end of this week's presentation. Like I said, we got done a little bit earlier. We're all coming back from Labor Day break. Everyone's feeling a little weird. We're gonna let class end just a little bit earlier this week. Like I said, continue with your 10 streaming projects, and then the 3 streamers that you check out. I would even suggest picking out someone you regularly watch and then trying a couple new ones to kind of see what they tick. After the lecture next week on Twitch, I think what we'll do is we'll actually share some of those streamers that you choose and talk about them live as well on Twitch. Platinum VO says, I plan on streaming tomorrow. Everybody's streaming as well. Little heads up, when you go stream it later on, and not so much now, but if you feel free to share your stream ID when you go live on the Discord. That's fully allowed. Yola Swaggins, you are so welcome. Everybody, thanks for watching, especially my students. Hopefully you found the information useful as we go forward. This is a really fun, interesting class to teach, and I look forward to going through all this information with you all. Everyone have a fantastic night. Before you sign off, I kind of want to see if there are any professors streaming right now. It's entirely possible there's another class going on Twitch. It happens. I don't see any. All right. No rating for us. Everybody have an awesome night. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Yeah, Ryan wasn't up. He's usually there on Wednesdays, or I would totally rate him.